Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about Steve Barron's film, The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, this is the original 1990 live-action film I'm talking about here. It was preceded by the comic books. It was preceded by the 1987 animated TV series, but Steve Barron's 1990 film was the first of the live-action films. Now, I grew up really, really liking the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was a thing that I was big into in my childhood. Team Donatello. But this is a film that sort of combines a couple of different elements alongside just some straight-up ninja comedy. This is a coming-of-age film. This is a finding family film. And of course, this is a struggle of good versus evil. So it's a complex film. So we start out with April O'Neil, Channel 3 news reporter, reporting on an increase in crime in New York City. A crime wave that seems not to be just random crime, but in fact to be organized in some way. Over the course of the early portion of the film, and of course we see some of these crimes being carried out, in the early portion of the film, April starts introducing this idea of the foot, which was a sort of Japanese crime wave that happened decades before, which apparently, according to Japanese immigrants, who we never see, but whom April reports talking to, the thefts in New York bear a striking resemblance to the thefts in Japan associated with the foot. While this is happening, April actually gets attacked by some juvenile delinquents stealing camera stuff out of the news van. But through the air, a sai, this is at night, a sai, which is Raphael's weapon, it's a sort of shortish Japanese pitchfork from the medieval period that was then converted to a weapon. A sai flies through the air, smashes the light bulb. The lights go out. Sounds of fighting. The juvenile delinquents are all tied up. April finds the sai, and we are introduced to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, heroes of the movie. I think most people probably know this, but there are 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, and Michelangelo. They each have a different color. They wear smallish masks over their eyes. Leonardo is in blue, and he calls it a katana. It's like Ninja actually carried a shorter sword than a katana. Ninjatsu, I think, is the name of it. That doesn't sound entirely right, but it was actually shorter in part so you could draw quicker and try and get a jump on an enemy. But he carries 2 of these, 2 swords. We have Raphael in red, who carries 2 sai. Michelangelo in orange, who carries 2 nunchucks, which are sort of dowel rods, I guess, connected with a chain, and they were originally used for beating wheat, but they were again converted into a weapon. And then we have Donatello in purple, carries a bow staff, basically a long stick. They live in the sewers. They are, at this point, unknown to New Yorkers, but they have been training under Splinter, who is a rat, who was the pet of Hamato Yoshi, originally in Japan, and then moved to New York City. Hamato Yoshi was a ninja master, and from his cage, Splinter mimicked his karate moves, or his ninja moves, thereby learning the art of ninja. The Turtles, we get the first instance of their origin story here, which is actually developed much more thoroughly in the second movie. The Turtles, after... So, Hamato Yoshi and his wife were killed by his rival from Japan, Oroku Saki. After that, Splinter ended up in the sewers. He found 4 baby turtles crawling around in some strange glowing ooze, and he gathered them up, and then they all started mutating. They all started growing rapidly, both physically and intellectually. And so Splinter becomes this sort of wise mentor father figure. The turtles are roughly 15 years old, but they've been training in the sewers for pretty much their entire lives to do ninja. They increasingly find out how organized the Foot is, how organized this crime wave is, and basically we're initially introduced to this guy named Tensai? Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm going to look up this guy's name. Hatsu. Sorry. So we're originally introduced to this guy named Hatsu, and he seems to be the leader of this group. He is a very stern Japanese man, great martial arts skill, and he's basically gathered up all these kids, these sort of disaffected youth, and they're doing all these crimes for him. So there's something sort of Oliver Twisty about this. It's a sort of Fagin's criminal court type situation. But alongside having all of these kids doing crimes for them, the Tatsu is inducting good fighters into the Foot, which is a ninja organization. They wear sort of black outfits, black masks with sort of bug eye looking mesh eye covers, and red bandanas with a distinct symbol on the forehead. The Ninja Turtles have to defeat the Foot. April O'Neil gets attacked by members of the Foot because she is reporting on what they're doing, and they try to silence her. Raphael rescues her and takes her down into the sewers, where she meets the Ninja Turtles and Splinter. She basically becomes their ally, etc., etc. One of the kids, who is part of the sort of larger Foot network, but not actually a member of the Foot formally, is named Danny. He's the son of April's boss, and so he actually leads the Foot to April. The Foot manages... So the Foot does... They actually follow Raph when he takes April down into the sewers, and so they raid the Turtles' house, their little area where they live. They snag Splinter while the Turtles are out with April, and then they have to rescue him. But the Turtles have to figure out where Splinter is being held. Danny leads the Foot to April's house, where he claims that the Turtles are staying. So the Foot goes in and attacks. They defeat the Turtles, but they don't capture or kill any of them. They severely injure Raphael, but with the help of Casey Jones, who is a vigilante sports guy, the turtles manage to escape, and they escape out to the country to April's childhood farm. There they recuperate, and they learn the most important lesson of ninja. So Leonardo meditates, and he is able to sort of create a brief psychic connection with Splinter, who sort of calls out to him from where he's being held by the foot. And so Leonardo gathers all the turtles together, they meditate together, and you get a sort of... Basically, it is Obi-Wan Kenobi as a Force ghost. You get Splinter as a sort of Force ghost, even though he's still alive, but he is able to sort of deliver this message to the Ninja Turtles that the greatest lesson that they had to learn, the final lesson that they had to learn, was mental discipline and unity. And they're now ready to come back to New York to face the Foot and to rescue Splinter. What they still don't know is that Katsu is not actually the leader of the Foot. We do learn this at some point, but we don't have all the information yet. The leader of the Foot is a dude named Shredder. He wears basically a sort of metallic samurai mask, and he has a number of spiked shoulder pads, spiked knee pads. He has a hand sort of heart glove with long spikes on it. Basically, this is a dude who can do some damage to you if he wants to. He's also a very, very good fighter. So, the Turtles come back. There's a final climactic battle in which they defeat a bunch of members of the Foot, and then some of the other members of the Foot retreat up onto a rooftop. The Turtles follow them, where they are confronted by Shredder, and they each try and fight Shredder individually, and they basically get their asses kicked. They sort of come back together, and they're like, all right, let's attack him at the same time. Still, nothing. Shredder is about to kill Leo. He's defeated Leo, he's got him down. Shredder's got a spear, he's gonna stab him in the throat. He forces the other turtles to throw away their weapons. But Splinter has been rescued by Casey Jones and actually Danny, who has turned back to the good. Splinter gets up on this rooftop, and he actually calls out Shredder as Orokusaki, as the guy who had killed his master, his sort of traditional evil enemy. Orokusaki, i.e. the Shredder, gets really not thrilled with having Splinter there, because when Orokusaki killed Hamato Yoshi, Splinter leapt from his cage and clawed up his face. So his face is now horrifically scarred. So he charges Splinter with the spear. Splinter, who's gotten one of the sets of nunchucks that Michelangelo threw away, boom, basically he grabs this spear and hurls Shredder over the wall. Shredder then falls to his doom in a garbage truck, which Casey Jones accidentally turns on, thereby crushing Shredder. So again, it's a movie that's really fascinated. It is a coming-of-age story in that the Ninja Turtles have to grow up. They are presented definitely as teenagers, sort of mid-age teenagers, around 15 or so. And so there is a coming-of-age story in which they grow up and gain more responsibility, more sort of collective unity, etc., etc. But it's basically a story fascinated with family. The Ninja Turtles are brothers. Splinter is their sort of surrogate father. He's not obviously their biological father, but he is effectively their father. He has raised them, taught them everything they know about ninja and so on and so on. But we also have Danny and his father. Danny believes that his father doesn't care about him, and that's part of the reason that he's disaffected and he's joined this sort of criminal network of the Foot, because the Foot offers the rhetoric of family. Shredder tells these kids, you are a family, or we are a family. I am your father now. So again, there's kind of a Shredder has a very sort of mechanically modulated voice while he's wearing the helmet. So there is again another sort of Star Wars thing here. Empire Strikes Back. I am your father. We get that line parroted here by Shredder. So again, this sort of question of what does family mean and how do you construct family, what are your obligations to family, etc., is really central to the film. And I don't know that there's necessarily a coherent answer to it, because on the one hand, you have the distinction between a biological family with Danny and his father versus a non- or semi-biological family, since the Turtles are probably actually biological brothers, but Splinter is clearly not biologically related to them. But you have a biological family and a non-biological family, both of which at the end of the movie are held up as good things. But on the other hand, you've got the non-biological family of the Foot. And I guess the sense in which that makes sense and is coherent is that Shredder ultimately doesn't care about them. He is using these kids for his own purpose. He's closer to a cult leader than to a father in the sort of idealized way that we often use that word. So that may be the difference, but I'm not necessarily convinced that for me that's a clear enough and effective enough distinction that it sets a sort of useful ethical standard across the board. Whether or not that matters is a different question.